Bitcoin has finally exploded and reaching close to that 100,000 historical mark. Now, the question I want answered in this video is, what about our favorite layer 1 tokens? What can we expect? What are our profit targets? And I'll include 2 bonus layer 1 videos and charts just for you. So sit back and relax. Hi, I'm Martin. I'm the founder of Captain Crypto's Compass. I'm a trader and a professor at the Financial Freedom Academy. I am passionate about helping you to achieve financial freedom through the art and the gift of trading. I will be providing you with actionable technical analysis and insights on your favorite cryptocurrency projects to help you make better and more informed decisions. If you're ready to take your trading to the next level, you're in the right place. Now, Bitcoin has finally managed to break into our extension targets. Now, in our previous video, you can watch it here, I went through a lot of these targets with you and identified key levels that we can expect to face resistance with Bitcoin, and it looks like we have blasted through target 1, target 2, target 3 and approaching our target 4 at roughly $104,000. Exciting times indeed. But if you want more information on that, just view the video in the top hand corner and I'll go through all of my targets for Bitcoin specifically. But I want to focus on the layer 1s, and I'm going to start with Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is the big daddy of layer 1s, and a lot of people are excited to see that Ethereum has finally managed to reclaim the 21 SMA, this yellow line, and the 50 SMA, the green line. And we can see that we have faced some resistance at the 786 Fibonacci level, and we are approaching and trying to push into these higher targets. Now, I've looked at the chart and I've identified a simple trading setup for us with Ethereum. My premise is that we are starting to have impulsive waves to the upside. We can see that we have created this little uptrend here from the bottom here, and we are starting to create higher lows and higher highs. We're battling with the 786 at the moment, but it looks like we are finally managing and trying to break past this resistance level at the 786 at roughly about $3,300. Now, for Ethereum, we can expect a push up. Now, our realistic price targets for Ethereum is 1, the previous all-time high target of roughly $4,800, and the Fibonacci 1.272 extension at roughly about $7,700 odd dollars. Now, that's quite a big number, but we have to also take into account that Ethereum has surprised many during the previous bull run, where it actually reached the 1.272 extension and the 1.4 extension from the previous low. So it has done this in the past, so it is a potential that we just need to highlight on the chart. But for me, I have a simple setup. I'm looking at the 50 SMA and the 21 SMA and also the anchored VWAP line that we are starting to hold as support for this continuation of the move upwards. So I've identified buy zones here at the 50 SMA at roughly about $2,950 odd dollars, all the way back down to this value area at the 618 at this market structure that we're building. That's roughly about $2,500 odd dollars. So I'll be reaccumulating Ethereum at these levels between the 2,950 odd and the 2,500 odd dollars for this push upwards. Now, there's a very simple trick that we can want to see here, and this is that for Ethereum to start pushing into these higher highs, we need to start creating higher highs, looking at the left here, and we need to start creating higher lows. And this trading setup is based on the premise that we are going to start seeing these higher lows forming on Ethereum to help it push it up into these higher extension targets. So look for this pattern on all the layer 1s. You'll have a push to the upside, impulsive wave up, and a corrective wave down. And we want to see these impulsive waves start taking out our previous pivot highs and then finding support and creating higher pivot lows. And this is why for these trading setups, if we do break the 618 in this case, you'll see I have a stop loss set here at roughly about $2,290. Now, the premise is simple. If we come back down, get rejected, break into our buy zones, we can start accumulating. But if we do start breaking market structure and create our first lower low on the chart, that will invalidate the premise that we might be going into a downtrend. You know, as soon as we create our first lower low, the possibility of us going lower is higher, and therefore we do not want to stay in these positions should we start creating those lower lows. So this is a theme that you'll see on all of these layer 1 tokens, these trading ideas, is that we want to see that higher low forming in the buy zone on the 50 SMA, on the 21 SMA, and holding the anchored VWAP as that critical support. Hey, hope you're enjoying the content so far. Please remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Now, for the next one, Solana, we can see that we are approaching our all-time high targets of $259 odd. Now we can see we faced a little bit of resistance here, but I've highlighted here a trading setup idea targeting these high extension zones into Solana. The 1.272 Fibonacci extension is roughly sitting at about $667, so that's also quite a high target. Don't bet the farm on that, but we can see that Solana is trying to push into these extension areas. Now, one of two things can happen here that I see. One is we can blast past this all-time high and go into these Fibonacci extensions with quite a lot of volume. The other possibility is that I see here is that we start facing resistance at these previous all-time highs and start forming a retracement back to create support on the previous top pivots here to the left at roughly about $205. So I'm highlighted my buy zones for Solana at between the $205 range up to the 50 SMA at roughly about $147. Should we have a rejection and a correction back into these zones, these will be high value areas that we can re-enter our position to target these upside potentials of the Fibonacci extensions with Solana. I've placed my stop loss here at below the 50 SMA, as again, I do not want us to create that lower low with that downside pressure coming in. You know, once we break the 50 SMA, we can see how we've been holding the 50 SMA as support during these corrective moves. So we want to see something similar happen with support coming in and holding above the 50 SMA. If we do break the 50 SMA, then I would be cautious that we can continue to the upside. So I've placed my stop loss here at roughly about $140 on Solana, targeting these high extensions into the Fibonacci up to about $667. So Solana is looking very positive, very strong, definitely one we need to keep an eye on. Now the third layer one is BNB. Now BNB is also showing a lot of strength, you know, finding support on the 50 SMA. We can see the support bounce on the 618 Fibonacci, and it has reclaimed the 21 SMA, and it recently got rejected at our resistance zone at the previous pivot highs at roughly about $650 odd. Now what we want to see with Binance and BNB in order to really push us to these extension targets is we want to start seeing support re-enter the market on top of our anchored VWAP and the 21 and 50 SMA, and that coincides nicely with the 786 retracement level. So we're looking for a bounce above these levels. So I've highlighted my buy levels here at roughly about $573 odd all the way to the 50 SMA and a little bit lower at about $506. Now again, I've placed my stop loss below the 50 SMA, as we can see that we have been treating the SMA as this critical support during this bull run accumulation stage. So I want to start re-adding to my positions to start targeting these extension levels in BNB. Now the all-time high target is now sitting at roughly $692 and the 1.272 extension at about $955 and the 1.414 at roughly $1,200. So these are my sell zones. If we approach these extension targets into the Fibonacci, these are high profitability areas and value areas to start taking profits out, and the buy zones are on the moving averages to support the move to the upside. Now with SUI, we have seen an amazing pump with SUI. We have gone from our previous lows all the way up into our Fibonacci extension levels, and this is why I say if you look at these charts, you know, SUI has already entered into these extension targets, and we are starting to take some profits on SUI, waiting for that rejection at either the roughly this 1.414 fib extension level, or even the 1.618 extension level at roughly about $5.6 and $4.1. And we are looking to create our higher low, finding support on top of the previous all-time highs. You can see how we went straight to the all-time high, got rejected, found support at the 786, and then pushed through that all-time high into our Fibonacci extension zones. So I'm waiting for a retracement in SUI to start re-adding into my positions in SUI, and the buy zones I've highlighted here are roughly between about $2.35 all the way down to the 21 and 50 SMA at roughly about $1.37. And I've placed a stop loss for these trading ideas under the 50 SMA at roughly about $1.23. So we are looking for that retracement, we're looking for a pullback to find support above the previous all-time highs and then push us into this continuation to the upside into our sell zones, but this has treated us very well. We're starting to take some profits off in these value areas and waiting for that pullback to reaccumulate the positions. Now, AVAX as well, we've seen some strong support into the market here with a couple of green vector candles pushing in, showing us that there's high volume, and we can see that we are finally trading above the 50 SMA and the 21 SMA with AVAX. Now, I've highlighted a couple of key zones for us here, the 618 extension, 786 fib extension, and the previous all-time high at roughly about 147. So we can see the buy zones I've highlighted here is just below the 50 SMA at roughly about $31.38, all the way just below the 21 SMA at roughly about $24.42. I've placed my stop loss here at the close of the previous 2 weeks candle. We can see that we are wanting to create a lower high, finding support on top of our moving averages to support the thesis that we are on our way to challenge these extension areas. So look for AVAX to start holding support in these areas if we do have a little bit of a pullback, but we can also then target the 618 at roughly about $49.60 and the 786 at roughly $79, almost $80 for that, and then previous all-time high at 147. So I can see a big upside potential for AVAX with a minimal risk to the downside, with a stop loss at the roughly the $22 area to protect us should AVAX's momentum wane and we run out of steam. We have our stop loss in place to protect our capital. Hey, hope you're enjoying the content so far. Please remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. And now for the 2 bonus videos. Now these are also layer ones, and the first one I want to look at is TON. Now TON is also showing a lot of strength. We can see that it has held support on the 50 SMA, this green line, for quite some time now, and we are finally starting to push into these extension zones, trying to reclaim the 21 SMA. Now the buy zones I have here is on the 50 SMA and the 618 Fibonacci retracement level at roughly about between $5 and 8 cents, and all the way down in this value area low all the way to about $4.47, with a stop loss at below the previous all-time low here that we had during this corrective phase here, this pivot low, at roughly about $4.40. So should we face resistance here on the 21 SMA with TON, look for a retracement back into these value areas to reaccumulate our positions, and we can then start being in a position to target these higher extension levels. We can see the 786 is roughly about $6.1 and the previous pivot high here roughly $8.2, and the 2.272 extension at roughly $12.01. So there's a very nice trading setup idea here, targeting these extensions into the higher areas with a minimum risk to reward ratio, which looks fantastic for TON. And then the final chart that I want to look at is DOT. Now DOT has also formed this double bottom pattern, you know, coming back down onto that, pushing up into the 382, got rejected, double bottom pattern, and we can see that we finally also formed these 2 green vector candles pushing above the 21 SMA, trying to reclaim the 50 SMA. So I can see some bullishness re-entering the polkadot ecosystem, and my value areas that I've identified here, my buy zones, are roughly from the 21 SMA at roughly about $4.90 all the way back down to our previous support double bottom pattern at roughly about $3.71. I've placed my stop loss below these 2 low pivots, the double bottom that we formed, at roughly about $3.42. And we are targeting these extensions into the upper bands of the Fibonacci. The 382 is currently at about 10.1 cents, the 0.5 at $14, and the 618 at roughly $19.4, and the 786 at $30, and then that all-time high at around $55. So there's a massive risk to reward trade here. I'm quite excited to see how DOT performs now that Bitcoin is exploding to the upside. We can expect some movement in the layer ones. So those are my trading setups for the top layer 1 blockchain. So have a look at these setups, and I hope that it's valuable to you as we approaching these extension targets, as we're expecting these moves and pushes to the upside. These are some realistic areas that we can try and take some profits, and value areas that we can reaccumulate to line our bags in order to push and target these extension targets. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this content, hit the like button, hit the sub button, and hit the bell notifications. Also, remember to click the link in the description below to join my mailing list, where I'll be sending you free emails and trading videos, and also market report updates weekly to help you stay ahead of the herd. As always, this community would not be the same without you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Peace and love. See you next time.